Hey guys, before I get started today, I just wanted to let you know, did get our first t-shirts up for sale over on Teespring. There's 3 different campaigns currently going on. The first one for the Super Nintendo, already funded at this point, but if you still want it, there's still plenty of slots, I think, open. The other 2 shirts, we have the Dev Kit shirt, and then we have an interesting idea from one of the artists doing it, and you'll see it here. It's kind of the shield with the hammer going behind it. I think that was a great idea. So we have both of those shirts as well. So 3 shirts total, guys. Check the link in the description below if you were interested. So guys, the Switch conference is in the books at this point. We know more about the Switch. I think there's still a lot of stuff we just don't know about as well. But to get started, my pre-order is done. I do have it pre-ordered, so I will be getting it, and I checked with the store, and it is going to be there for a midnight release, so I will get it the night it comes out. I'll bring it back here. I'll turn it on first. I think I'll do a live stream for it, but I'll turn it on first, obviously make sure it works before I take it apart, and then we'll get it apart and see what it is Nintendo doesn't want to tell us for whatever reason. So I pre-ordered the gray one. I did not get the colored Joy-Cons, and I also pre-ordered Mario, Odyssey, and of course Zelda, because it's Zelda. So let's talk about this this conference that we all hung out and watched at the same time, basically, because there were so many people watching this thing on YouTube that night. It was insane. And of course, a lot of the bigger YouTubers have already kind of put their 2 cents in about the whole thing. I talked briefly about something that was troubling me that night, which was the price. I won't get too much into the price now. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video with that, but I think I was pretty telling on what I thought of the price that video that night. So this video is just going to be around the conference and how I felt Nintendo did. Overall, as an entire conference, I think they did a pretty good job. Now, there were some pretty bad parts of the conference that it's hard to argue, even if you're a Nintendo fan, only because I don't know what was up with the translator that night. They just seemed so bored and uninterested with the entire thing. I'm not really sure. I mean, there's a part where he was doing the pose for Travis touchdown for Suda51, basically, the whole pose thing, where he's like that, and the guy was like, "Oh, thank you very much, yay." He's like this. Oh man, that was bad. You have the guy who kind of does the weird relaxation thing on the couch. I mean, it's been pointed out by everyone. Some of those parts were very cringeworthy. They had the switch thing they did every time. Again, that didn't bother me too much, but some of it was pretty cringy, yes. So let's get away from the cringiness for a minute and talk about what we saw. We saw, of course, price. We saw battery life. Obviously, we saw a lot about those Joy-Cons. And those Joy-Cons, after I've had a time to think about it, you know what? Those are some pretty intricate devices, just based on what they were telling us with the HD rumble feature. And basically, I mean, you have a battery in there. There's a lot of stuff going on in a very small device. I probably would have preferred them to be slightly larger, to be honest, but I do understand that they do take up either side of the system when it's in handheld mode, so you can't have these huge things coming off the side. That they seem to want to keep the whole thing slim and kind of sleek, and I actually appreciate that a lot. So we got a ton of announcements that night. Obviously, they had a lot of games there. They really, I mean, they rifled through a lot of them in like a big sizzle reel, which was cool. I mean, we got an eye on a lot of different things that were there. Obviously, Skyrim showed up. They basically said, yes, Skyrim's coming. Not a launch title, strangely. I thought that would have actually been a launch title for the system, but I know a lot of people are very worried about the launch titles for the system, but people have gone out on Twitter, like Nintendo of America employees, the head of Nintendo American producers and everything, and have said, hey, there's still a lot of stuff coming between now and launch. You're going to get smaller games as well. When systems launched, like when the Xbox One and the PS4 launched, there were some games there that were for just that system, but then you had a lot of smaller games as well show up to kind of bolster that lineup. You know, it's a little different, obviously, if there's 20 games releasing as opposed to 6, but if like 10 of those games are small online-only games, then because I think Nintendo is looking at Zelda as like 5 games rather than 1 game. And you know what? It's going to sell the system. Zelda is enough at launch to sell the system. I just think people maybe want a little more than things like 1-2 Switch, for example. I know there's a racing game. It's like RMX. It looks like F-Zero kind of, but you know what? It's also just a racing game that some people may want, but there's no big name on it, is what I'm trying to say. It's not like it's Mario. It's not Metroid. You know, it's not. There's a lot of games that they probably could have done. I was actually shocked to see that Mario is not coming out until holiday. I thought that would have been a summer release, if anything. But I get, you know what, Nintendo's looking to the future as well. This isn't going to be a 1-year system. They're probably looking to make this a 5-year system minimum before they move on to the next Switch. So you can't release everything in 2 months and then, have nothing. So at least they understand that they need to time their releases rather than try to give us a ton of stuff at once and then have like 3 or 4 months where nothing comes out. You also think that Mario could actually use the extra time. If you watch the video, there are times where, yes, I mean, the game looks good, but there are also times where you can tell that it's not a finished game, and I think they're still working out a lot of things like anti-aliasing around certain elements of the game, including Mario himself, and just other little things. The backgrounds at times look nice, but then at times you kind of looked at him when he was running around New York City, if that is New York City, I assume it is, and you realize that maybe they're still working on parts of it. I think they did make a kind of a big mistake when they announced 1-2 Switch. Specifically in the live stream I was in, a lot of people thought, especially in the chat, like I said, the people around me, seemed to think that that was Red Dead Redemption that they were announcing, Red Dead Redemption 2, and looking at it, I kind of had the feeling it wasn't. And at that moment, I was like, oh no, Nintendo's about to let down everyone, and they would have had to have realized what they were doing, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't understand that by showing 2 cowboys on screen about to shoot each other, the people would get the idea of Red Dead Redemption being a part of that. And then, of course, it jumps to 1-2 Switch, which would be good if it came with the system, not if it's a $50 standalone game. Now, I'm going to do a separate video on all the different games, and we'll look at everything. But I just want to touch on the big ones. Their new IP, ARMS, could be good. I think I need to see a little more. I need to see if there's like a full story mode to it, if there are like character development, like RPG elements to it. There's a lot of stuff I want to see that I have not seen yet. So I don't want to make a brash judgment on it and just say it's not going to last or it's not going to have legs to it when it possibly could. Splatoon 2 looked very good. I think that's going to be another big seller for them. It's a great online game for them. But it's also, we're still waiting for that to come out. Now, there have been some rumors kind of swirling right now saying it would be at the end of summer, like end of July or early August. And that is a game I thought would have come out when the system came out. I thought we would have had like Splatoon 2 and Zelda kind of spearhead the launch. I think those 2 games would have been perfect to put out together at launch because Splatoon 2 is obviously a different audience that would play that than Zelda. Splatoon 2 is kind of like that online competitive shooter kind of game. I know it's not really a shooter, but it has those elements to it, whereas Zelda is more of a single player big adventure game you could kind of play on your own. That's kind of where we get into this whole online issue. See, Nintendo wants to charge for online now, and I've said before, I understand if your competition is doing it and they're getting away with it, you're going to do it too, but that also means you have to bring a product to the table that is at least equal to theirs. By equal to, I really just mean it needs to at least be competitive in a sense. You can't have weird things like doing voice chat through your phone, which is what they seem to be wanting us to do. I mean, they said it was more inconvenient to use a headset. There's a whole interview with Reggie where he's quoted saying it's more inconvenient to use a headset than it is to just use your phone to talk to them. But if you're going to use your phone to talk to somebody, why don't you just call them? Why would you use their app? So I hope they really elaborate on this online thing a lot more. I think a lot of people are more confused about the online service now than they were beforehand. And they really just need to stomp that out, get that completely taken care of sooner than later so we know what we're getting into when we get the Switch. Especially when they start trying to charge in, they said fall. I mean, it's coming up, it's sooner than you think when you get the game and then all these games start showing up. All of a sudden, maybe the online is like $30 a year. All of a sudden, you got to pay $30 to use what is kind of not a good online experience. And no, the online's fine. It was fine for the Wii U. What I'm saying is online experience like convenience factor. Just being able to get in a party and talk to somebody using matchmaking with a party. Everyone can just jump into matchmaking together. You can talk to each other while you're doing that with just a regular headset, which we've seen headset accessories, so I'm not really sure what they're talking about when it comes to their phone and everything. That's what I'm saying. They need to get this figured out, get us crystal clear on this whole online thing, and then that way we can go forward. It's also worth mentioning they said they're going to give us a game when we do our online subscription, and what I thought would be more like Games with Gold or PlayStation Network, where you keep the game as long as you're signed up. So if I jump on in March after I've been paying for PlayStation Plus, I download a game like God of War, for example. They give that away for free. I download that game. I then keep that game on my PlayStation, and it's good to go until I cancel my service, and then, of course, it gets locked. According to Nintendo, you just get the game to rent and try for the month, and then you can buy it if you like it. See, I don't think that's a good service. Again, it also depends on price. Maybe this online service is $20 a month, or $20 a year. Definitely not $20 a month. $20 a year. That seems more acceptable to me than the $50 to $60 a year plan that Sony and Microsoft are offering right now. So it's going to come down to price, guys. We'll wait for them to tell us. I hope they get that figured out price-wise with their features, and I hope it all makes sense for them. Otherwise, this could really hurt their online service. So we get through all the big stuff about the system, the price, the release date, which is honestly a lot earlier than I thought at March 3rd. I was almost positive we would get midway to 3/4 of the way through the month before we saw the system. We're basically getting it in February at this point. Like, it's insane how close it is compared to what I thought. I mean, this system is going to be out in a month and like 3 weeks. So that's way sooner than I thought. So we get to the final part of the whole thing, and we get to a trailer. That's, of course, Zelda. We're watching it. Looks great. I mean, I'm going to play this game a lot. The only reason it really come out of my system is if Xenoblade 2 gets moved up, and I'm not done Zelda yet, because I'm sorry, I know Zelda's popular, but I am a big Xenoblade Chronicles X fan, and I will be playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which seems to be Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because they announced that on stage despite just saying Xenoblade 2. I'll be playing that a lot on that system. And yeah, Zelda looked great. We do get to the end. They show us a release date of March 3rd. Awesome. It is a launch game. There's so much stuff going around about, is it a launch game? Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Mario's a launch game. You know, all these rumors, and I'm glad. Boom, March 3rd. Zelda's coming with me. I have it. That is coming with me that night, and it'll be probably played well into that night, and then wake up the next morning, play it more. And that ended what was to be about an hour-long presentation. Like I said, I thought it was good, but let me give you guys my thoughts on the Switch and where I think we're headed with the system. So the Switch, as it is obviously the most powerful handheld ever made at this point. It has the ability to play console games on the go, which is what their whole goal has been at this point. You don't have to separate handheld from home console use. And they have so many exclusives that they've announced at this point. Games like Xenoblade, games like Shin Megami, Fire Emblem Warriors, Zelda, Mario, Splatoon 2. I mean, this system is shaping up to have more exclusives than anyone else. And now Nintendo likes to put exclusives out to sell their hardware. And now these third parties are showing up, at least for launch. You have FIFA, which is big for Europe. They needed FIFA for Europe. I heard so many people say, who cares about FIFA? I'll tell you who, the people in Europe. And to get Skyrim with Bethesda on board. Bethesda said it before, and they'll say it again, they don't want to develop for a system that is weak and they can't put their stuff on. If they could put Skyrim on there, they could potentially put games like Fallout on there, you know? I mean, Dragon Age could go to it. There's a lot of stuff that can go to the system that we wouldn't have thought otherwise with big open worlds. And that doesn't just mean Bethesda games. That means games with open worlds. You see how large Zelda is and the very short load times. I think the system can play a lot of these big open worlds that most people weren't thinking it had the power to do in the first place. And I'm a little disappointed in Nintendo for not giving us any specs. I know they didn't want to. I have a feeling they're not like super proud about the specs is what I think, but we don't know. That one Foxconn leak seems to be becoming more and more true as the day goes on, and it's possible that those may be the specs, but it's still hard to say. We don't have no word from Nintendo about anything RAM, processor speed, the processor that's in there. If you look under their paperwork, it still just says SoC, just says NVIDIA Tegra processor, so we still don't know. At least they told us battery life. I'm happy with the 3 hours for Zelda, basically destroying that system. You know, 3 hours is good if you're cranking through Zelda. And I really think the system has a chance to be the best companion system, whether you are a PC gamer or a Sony PlayStation 4 gamer or you're an Xbox fan. You have to be looking at the Nintendo Switch and be like, wow, those games look good. And that would be an awesome system to have because then I can also take it with me on the go. Maybe you're going on business trips. That system is perfect as a companion system to take with you places. Even if the dock is really expensive, you know what? You can take your dock with you, I guess. Maybe you do invest in another dock if you know you're going across, maybe you're going across country several times for business. You're ending up in hotel rooms that have TVs. You know what? You can buy another dock for $90 just in case you destroy it or leave it somewhere, since baggage claims always the luggage gets destroyed all the time. Do I think the Switch will be a success? That's the biggest question I seem to keep getting. People seem to ask. Do I think it's going to be a success? Based on pre-orders right now, yeah, it probably will. I mean, people are going to buy it. It has the games, and that's how you sell a system. You have to have the games, and the Switch has them right now. They have Skyrim, which is big for people. It has FIFA. It'll get Madden next year. It's going to probably get some kind of shooter, whether it be a Call of Duty game or a Battlefield game. It'll get that. And I think third parties want to be a part of this system. It's just going to come down to the audience that's there, obviously, and really Nintendo's guidelines, because Nintendo can be kind of strict with third-party companies. So yes, they will easily sell through their initial stock based on the pre-order numbers. Now I went to GameStop and pre-ordered mine. They still had another 18 or so pre-orders left, and they didn't seem like they were getting overrun at all, so we'll see about that. But I do know, obviously, the online retail market works a lot faster than the local retail market, so I know Amazon was selling out, Best Buy was selling out, Walmart was selling out. I do think Nintendo will ride this wave that was the NES Classic and sell out again. People are going to scalp it. So make sure you at least, when I went to GameStop, you only had to put $50 down on the system. Even if you don't have the entire amount, the entire $300 now, just go put $50 down on it if you can, and just make sure you at least have a copy tied up for yourself. That's it for now, guys. Definitely check back in. I think I have Tech Wave coming up tonight, and we'll probably I really want to go over all the games that we've seen and try to lay out exactly how Nintendo is going to launch this system. So until next time, guys, I'll see you then.